Hi, how you going? It is, of course, me, Reese T. O'Leary of perpelFLAME Company. That's right, perpelFLAME. Spirit has a message for you, so I'm just going to count my cards, get into them. We're only going to use one deck today, the Soul's Journey Lesson Oracle cards, my golden oldies. Okay, great. Yes, so interesting. I've just been sitting here getting some downloads of information from Spirit, and I've been seeing some really interesting things, to be honest with you all. I've been jumping backwards and forwards through what feels like some sort of time. What do I want to use? What word do I want to attribute to this? Time portal or something. I was seeing like right back into another space and time where the first peoples on Earth were existing, which was really fascinating because it's not who you think it is. It's not the culture that purports to be the first culture here on planet Earth. The first culture of people here on Earth were a dark-skinned, high in melanin culture, and they were quite brutal in their approach, and actually they were once peace-loving until the modern era of man, let's call it, came along from other places and spaces in the galaxy, in the universe. Really fascinating stuff. Why I was shown this information, I have no idea. But it is what it is, and now I just thought, okay, I'm going to jump on and pull some cards, see if Spirit wants to elaborate further on this message for everyone. And if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. But I only feel like using one deck of cards today, so we're not going into a deep dive reading. We're just going to do simply what comes through in these set of cards. I'm going to pull 3 across. Let's look at the past of the situation. Okay, yes. Let's look at the present of the situation for global humanity. Ooh. And let's look at the future of the situation. Ooh. Ooh. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is getting more and more interesting as we come along. Oh, wow. And what we don't see coming. Wow. Okay, do we want to pull any more cards, Spirit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards were pulled from this deck. May as well just pull the whole deck. We'll put those over there. So, from the past of the situation, and I'm looking at exactly the vision that I just described to you. So the vision of going back into the past, and this was way far, far back into the past, I tell you. Like, I don't know if this was hundreds of thousands of years ago, if this was millions of years ago, but I was just sitting here, contemplating, pondering. I'll go over it again for you, and then we'll dive into the cards. I was just sitting here contemplating and pondering something, and all of a sudden I got taken back into... Honestly, it seemed like it was somewhere over near, and this is probably going to be controversial for some people to hear, but it was over near the region of Southeast Asia. So I'm talking India, Bangladesh, Thailand, that kind of region of the world, right? And in this vision that I had, they were the original inhabitants of planet Earth. They were the first peoples of planet Earth. They were a very old and wise culture, even in my vision. They'd been existing for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, right? In my vision, they'd been around for a very long time. And they started, I think what was also interesting to note in my vision is how they've descended in their own kind of hierarchical structures. And what I mean by that is, once was a very wise and proud nation is now a nation that is quite corrupt and quite, viewed upon by a lot of the world as untouchables, sort of thing. Or, if you understand culture and you understand the world and the world as it stands, you can go and talk to people from many countries in the world, and they will all say the same thing about India, Bangladesh, and those regions of the world, Sri Lanka. They're not fans. Not many people are fans of that region of the world or the people that come out of them, which is very fascinating and interesting. Because, again, in my vision, this was the original culture. This was the original place in which many people existed, and many people existed from there from a base human level. I don't even know the right word to put to this, but it was like before we had so many nations around the world, before we had all of these different splits in cultures, this area of the world was like the center of it all. How interesting. And now we're in this culture where a lot of the world's scammers come out of India, for example. The amount of corruption that comes out of India. There's a whole lot of other issues, both socially, culturally, that I won't dive into in this video, but they also exist and come out of India these days. India itself is a country that's broken up into many different factions and kind of states, you could call them. And has a lot of issues in and of itself these days. So, very interesting vision, very, very interesting vision that I see. And this is meant to no disrespect to anyone that's Indian or from Southeast Asia. I'm just sharing with you as I see it, as I saw it. But the first card, I'm going to have a cigarette while we do this, so don't be offended, and if you are, toodaloo. I'm the Oracle, guys. The Oracle smokes cigarettes. Get over it. From the past of the situation, we've got the grief card coming up. The grief card says, I understand that losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. Now, in tying that in with my vision, you could almost say that what I was seeing was like a fall from grace. And why was there this fall from grace? It seems as though, let's pull one card over the top of that. Yeah. Right? A loss of honesty, a lack of honesty. So the honesty card says, I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. I think at this point in time in the world, this is, again, I can't give you an exact year or a figure or a time or a place, but it was a long time ago. And I think that the powers that be in that region of the world at the time weren't honest with what was happening. They weren't honest to themselves. They weren't honest to their people. And I think what was happening was we had, I don't know how you want to say it, but we had beings from other places come onto planet Earth and essentially introduced to the world as it stands, which back then was a lot more limited than it is now. Technology, measurements, tools, techniques. Yeah. It was designed to get the cultures out of what these beings coming from other places perceived as adversity, right? However, to the people that were in these places such as India, they weren't suffering from adversity. They were living at one with the land, at one with the world. Like many people watching this now, I bet you don't know that India is the capital of medicine in the world. They have such a vast understanding of nature and plants, and the fact that every medicine in the world comes from a derivative from a plant, right? And they have a really great understanding of that, and that comes from working for eons alongside nature. So the adversity card says, I accept that challenges are, I accept that challenges are the best way to learn, right? And that was out of alignment. So we've got so far a bit of a story being painted. These beings that came, and the beings that were already here, right? So let's just say, for lack of a better term, the Indo-Southeast Asian collective, and then you've got the beings that came down. Now, the Indo-Southeast Asian collective, they believed they were living life as it was supposed to be, hand in hand, probably a little bit tribalistic, and of course, in comparison to these beings that came from elsewhere, extraordinarily tribalistic, which is why these other beings wanted to introduce certain culture and certain things. Yeah. Fear. I realized that I am testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. It created a lot of fear, a lot of angst, a lot of worry, a lot of uncertainty, which is very, very interesting. It's very interesting that this is contributed to how the world views Southeast Asia these days. I think that's very interesting. The present of the situation is the Judgment card. The Judgment card says, I understand that everyone has their own unique path and challenges. Now, there's a bit of a cocky attitude that comes out of the Indian culture, or the Indo-Southeast Asian cultures, and I can understand on one level why, because there's this understanding of, we know more than people give off that we know. But unfortunately, the pendulum, I think, has swung right the other way these days, where we've gone from them being one of the wisest cultures to one of the at the other end of whatever wisdom is, right? The pendulum has swung the other way. The judgment that both exists within that region of the world and coming out of that region of the world is wow. We have a lot of, as I said, scams, a lot of crime, a lot of taking from others. There's an overpopulation of people. There's an overproduction of things, a lack of safety, lack of standards in comparison to much of the rest of the world. That's why they're considered still a developing nation. But a developing nation in comparison to who? Because again, once upon a time, this was the thriving hustle and bustle of planet Earth, according to my vision. I'm going to pull another card over the top. Regret, right? Regret, I know that I cannot change the past. So that to me denotes wanting to move forward into this kind of futuristic, wanting to join the rest of the crowd, wanting to, and that seems to me that it's happened by force at this point in time. Let's go back to these other beings for a second. So these other beings have come from wherever they've come from. Let's not speculate on that right now. But they've come from wherever they've come from, and they've really colonized, you could use that term, colonized much of the world, and therefore pushing the Southeast Indian region of the world into this need to catch up, okay? Yeah. The worry card. So the worry card says, I am learning that worry doesn't change an outcome. And that's because I think it's finally kind of the other shoes dropped, the penny's fallen, and it's now a case of we must do this, as opposed to we don't want to, we're going to fight back, we're going to push back. Interesting. I didn't really have a particular question in mind when I was pulling these cards, so I'm just rolling with what the cards are telling me. Now, in the future column, out of alignment, we've got success out of alignment, which says, I know that there is no greater goal than to love. This speaks on the old system dying out to me, and the old system, because over the top of that success card, we also have out of alignment the purpose card, right? And that says, I know what I'm here to do. Well, once upon a time that would have been true, but in this new world, in this new era, in this new time, it's very difficult to kind of picture and to design something that you don't know what what the rules are, You know, what are the confines of what I'm participating in? The guilt card out of alignment over the top says, I release any beliefs that no longer assist in my soul's growth. And I think much with the idea of, or the ideologue of wisdom comes with the ideology of releasing old wisdoms that don't serve a culture or a collective any longer. And I think finally there will be some progression and some growth. I wouldn't be surprised if this region of the world starts to become a forefront and a leader again in the next, I'm going to speak very broadly here, in the next 5 to 10,000 years. I think it will take some time to get back there. But over the top of the guilt card in alignment, we do have the friendship card, and the friendship card says, I understand that a friend is in my life for a reason. And I think that speaks on this region of the world coming back to join the main collectives, swooping back as the as it once was, as the head of the serpent, so to speak, right? Very interesting, very interesting. Now, what we don't see coming from the bottom of the deck, the imagination card out of alignment, which says, I embrace and nourish the creative aspects of my mind. And I think that speaks on running out of ideas on how to conquer something or how to achieve something or how to overcome, right, adversity, and how to overcome that of which they experience. Then over the top of that, we've got the indecision card out of alignment, which says, I use my intuition in all aspects of my life. And I feel as though they have stepped away from, and I'm still speaking on this region of the world, they've stepped away from their wisdom, their knowledge, their spiritual growth, their spiritual connection, so to speak, in many different ways. And I think this is where the struggle in the balance has come in that it's very difficult to live in a modern world using old tribal instincts or old tribalistic ways of being and ways of doing. So using your intuition is also to balance that stuff out and to be able to move with the times a bit more succinctly, a bit more fluidly, as opposed to being rigid in one's ways. Spirituality is not rigid, it's fluid. So, and so is intuition. Now, over the top of, where did that card come from? All right. Over the top of the indecision card, we've got the doubt card out of alignment, and that says, I release the need to know all the answers. Again, pointing at that struggle or that, what's the word I want to put to this? It points towards, that card points towards the fact that, it's like this downhearted, downtrodden feeling of, are we ever going to get back to that position? Are we ever going to raise ourselves up again and become at one with what we know to be true? Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe. Then we have the relationships card out of alignment, right? And it says, I'm attracted to those people who serve my higher good. And that to me speaks on the defensiveness and the not wanting to be a part of, the integration process of the all, wanting to be the singular as a part of being the all, wanting to be the micro and not be a part of the macro, right? The last card in alignment is the discipline card, which says, I can accomplish what I set my mind to. And that's remembering the power, the power that exists within, the power of the human spirit, the power of the mind, body, and soul, the power of the intuition. Oh, that was ironic. I just had my Muladhara, so my root chakra, go a bit wavy when I said that. And that's because there's a lack of grounding when it comes to choices made and decisions made from this region of the world. So that's very, very interesting. More discipline and more adherence to... I think this region of the world is going to teach us some things over the next few years, believe it or not. And I think the world's and global perspective will shift when it comes to this particular area of the world, as we begin to learn things about the past and things about the far distant past that relate to this area of the world. You know, mark my words in this reading right now. That region of the world is very misinterpreted. Let's pull one more. Humor. It'll be funny. It'll be funny because it'll be ironic. The humor card says, I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. And this region of the world is generally quite misunderstood. And it's going to be very interesting to see what this reading has to do with what's coming up in our world. There's obviously a reason why I felt the need to share this with you all, to share that vision with you, to share these cards with you. Don't know what it's in relation to in particular, but I'm sure we'll find out in the distant future. Or maybe the not too distant future anyway. Alrighty, Roo. I'm going to leave it there. Have a great day. Catch ya.